There was a very hungry, genetically modified caterpillar. 7 nuclear missiles.
Hey guys, it's the Pink King here. Now today's video is going to be a different kind of video. I've made a lot of Dinosaur King videos before, whether it be the remake, my redrawing series, or my retrospective. I've talked about almost everything, except from the actual episodes themselves, so today I want to change that. And where else better to start than looking at possibly the most darkest and twisted story of not only the entire show, but of cartoons in general. That's right, I said dark, because despite this show's cutesy style and tone, the implications of the show, once you actually begin to think about it, actually start to sound far more messed up than you may initially think. Take the whole reason why there are dinosaurs in the first place. Certain dinosaurs were essentially kidnapped from their time periods and forced to become cards, to then be brought back to the future where they are all alone in their species and now serve as nothing more than a reminder of what was, or weapons of mass destruction. It's really quite sinister if you think about it, but there's one story in particular that I feel ascends above the rest to become the darkest story that went over all our heads as a kid. And that's the story of the Acrocanthosaurus. The Acro has become practically iconic, in large part to how intimidating it was in this series. When many people talk about this show's Acro, it's always about how awesome it was or how powerful it was, but never about its story. Which is so strange to me because this one dinosaur gets probably the saddest story of the whole series. And so I feel like we should talk about why exactly it's so tragic. We first see the Acro in the episode Volcanic Panic, where we first think the Acro is going to be another one of the show's typical dinosaur hunts, where it shows up, causes some mayhem, and the D-Team and Alpha Gang show up to catch it. The D-Team defeats them and save the dinosaur, but this episode, it doesn't follow that route. As instead of that here, the Acro isn't intentionally causing mayhem, nor is it acting like an animal, but rather, it's acting like a parent trying to find out what happened to its family. As after all, this creature was probably just living its life normally with its mate and child, until one day, these strange little flesh things come from the future and abduct it and forced it into a card. And after several millions of years, it's now been forced into a new, unfamiliar environment, surrounded by new and scary things. But despite that, pushes on to try and figure out what happened to its family, as this creature values its family and its bond so much more than its own safety. But once it finds its family, it only sees that what's left, the remains, fossilized in a mountain. Now what makes this story so dark already is not only the fact it's taken the Acro's family, but also because the Acro is just a dinosaur, and so can't make sense of why its family is suddenly dead when it probably saw them last alive, for to it, what was probably felt like a few minutes ago. Why is its life suddenly gone? Thus resulting in it going into a pain and rage-fueled rampage, which ultimately leads to it getting captured by the Alpha Gang. Already a pretty depressing story, but it's what happens next in the episode, all fired up, that truly cements this story as a dark tragedy, as we see the Acro has been forcefully experimented on by Dr. Z, not only forcefully evolved, but now controlled by technology, completely overwhelmed and forcing it to be the Alpha Gang's slave. And might I remind you, Dr. Z is no safe scientist here. He probably did several experiments to this Acro's card, doing who knows how much damage to the poor creature's psyche. Taking a already grieving and in pain creature that can't comprehend why it's being forced to go through these hardships and forcing it to now become an instrument of destruction. And all this comes to a head when the tortured soul is forced to destroy everything in its path, resulting in it destroying its control device. And then it all suddenly comes back. That pain of losing its family, the pain of being taken from its home, and the pain of being experimented on all come back to the Acro, as it can't understand why. And so it does the only thing it knows how to do, and that's fight everything in its path, burning everything to the ground, resulting in nothing but ash, taking no prisoners. It's so full of rage that it's hot to the touch. This dinosaur has been turned into a monster that only feels nothing but pain and anguish, leaving the D team no other option but to give it everything they have to finish the Acro off for good, with a tornado of water completely drowning the beast. But despite that, it's never brought up again. The Acro is never seen again for the rest of the series. Was it healed up by the D team somehow? Was it locked away, never to be set free again? We may never know. Cartoons and dark stories go hand in hand. It seems all the good cartoons have at least one episode that had a dark undertone that we completely did not notice as kids. But this one is a whole new level, as it not only details a story about animal cruelty, experimentation, and grief, but also never brings it up again, as if it never happened, which although was probably due to the show's writing and constantly moving on. But it also, in doing so, leaves so many unanswered questions that lead to only darker and more depressing endings for this poor creature. And so, in short, Dinosaur King accidentally created one of the most sad and tragic stories in cartoon history. And it's one that I'm never going to be able to unsee for as long as I live. But, what do you guys think? Did you notice this dark story, or were you as oblivious to it as I was when I initially saw it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm very interested to see what you guys have to say as I read all of your guys' comments. And also, if you want more breakdowns on the Dinosaur King episodes or any other TV shows, then be sure to like the video and subscribe. Subscribing tells me you want more content just like this, and it helps me make it for you guys so much faster than it normally would. The last video did really well, surprisingly, my Dinosauria review, so I'm making a Sauria review next. And if you want to see that faster, then be sure to like the video and subscribe. But with that, peeps, it's been the Pink King here, and I will see you all next time.